I forget what that means. What it really means is, when you think about the offensive line position, it is the most unnatural position on football, on the offense side of the ball and defense, I would say. If you look at football in general, there's only two positions that really require you to play going forward and backwards, and that's offensive line and defensive back. So whenever you're getting in a stance, whenever you're engaged in a block, generally it is very uncomfortable, very unnatural position. If it's easy, it probably means you're too high, you're not low enough, you're not bent, you're not in a position of power. So that whole mindset with me, if it's easy, it's wrong. It's just having the mindset of the O-line coming in every day knowing that, hey, we're going to sprint on the field, we're going to work that a little bit extra, and we're just going to push ourselves to have to work a little bit harder because of the position that we play. Whenever I get to talk and speak at clinics, one of the first things I always like to do real quick, I like to talk about people that have helped me and grown. The coaches there, Walt Hamline is AD at Widener College, Jason Hotelling is the head football coach at Widener College. Both of them were my coaches in college. I played under them and coached under them. They were the guys that initially got me started with the O-line and really started to develop my mindset and how I teach it. Transitioning from playing, coaching for them, working last year at FIU under one of the best offensive line coaches in the nation, Alan Mogridge, working under our OC at FIU, Rich Skrosky, one of the best offense coordinators in the nation. Both guys were O-line guys who taught me a ton and changed the way I had been taught O-line play before and kind of molded and allowed me to keep growing as an O-line coach. And then Coach Wheeler, who's now the offensive line coach at URI, University of Rhode Island. Coach Wheeler and I GA'd together. He was the offensive line coach at Widener when I was coaching tight ends, and just an unbelievable coach in person, and a guy who taught me a lot about what he learned from his time as a player at Michigan State, professionally, and throughout his career in coaching. And then lastly, one of the big things I always like to stress to guys is don't be afraid to reach out there and talk to people. These are just 5 line coaches across the country who in the past at some point or another I've bothered and picked their brains. And, Coach Roy Isman, who's the assistant line coach at the Eagles, an unbelievable friend and unbelievable coach. I used to go up there and bother him all the time at Cornell. And Coach Whisenhand, who's the tight ends coach at Georgia Tech, back when he was the O-line coach at Temple, he's a guy that I used to go and bother all the time. They were at Temple. I'd be there doing all the one-day camps and just gain knowledge from a guy who's been around, who's coached a lot of football. Coach Morrissey, who's now at Austin Peay University, another coach who when he was at Princeton, I was a young GA who I would go and bother. He taught me a lot about up-tempo offense and how to coach it up front. John Strollo, huge influence, man who I've only met in the past couple of years now. The way he coaches O-line play kind of shifted my mentality and how I teach it. And then Ed Argas, who's at the University of New England. Ed is a great coach. He had coached in the NEC, the league I'm coaching right now, and had been a big mentor to my O-line coach, Coach Hotel in college. So my point whenever I show this slide is I kind of just try to stress to guys, don't be afraid to reach out there and kind of go talk to other coaches. You never know. An email, a text, all it can do is help you. It can never hurt you. Okay. Thinking with me, when talking about O-line, I believe in the mantra of 5 strong. And a lot of people ask me, what does 5 strong mean? And what I always like to tell them is 5 strong means that no man is an island. You draw your strength from others. You're only as strong as the man next to us. And that's a big mentality thing. When you're talking about O-line play, O-line is not a single position. It's not a me versus another man, and that's it. It is all interconnected. The success on every play can only happen if all 5 guys are doing their job and equally doing it well. Big thing with me, with the guys up front, competition. Every day will be a competition for the starting 5 to play. I'm a big believer in playing multiple O-linemen in a game. I see D-line do it all the time. It keeps them fresh. You see those guys rotating about 8 to 9 guys a game. I'll generally try to rotate between 8 and 9 as well. Not only does that create competition and it keeps guys fresh, but it also creates an onus for a young player. Like, I'm not just going to sit there and wait my turn. I'm going to challenge the starter every day. So every week will be a new challenge for those guys. Okay, everything I do as a coach is relationship-driven. I keep in touch with every single player. Nothing makes me more proud than seeing the accomplishments of my former players and the young men that they've become. And I think especially for O-line play, it's just something you have to constantly do. Big quote here that I love. Before I start getting into the football side of things. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. O-line is all about repetition, repetition, repetition. And in today's age where faster is better and guys don't want to, people say guys don't want to work it hard. I don't really believe in that. I believe it's just something that you have to hone with your players. You're going to do the same steps every day. You're going to do the same drills every day. Keep mastering those. When I talk to the offensive line at Brian, I tell them all the time, it's about being a master at your craft. We will advance in the playbook. We'll advance in drills once we've mastered what we need to master. I think that's just huge. Position philosophy for me, everything starts from the ground up. From drills, from stretching, from lifting off season and getting stronger. Everything we do starts with our feet. We talk about teaching technique every day. If it's the off season and we don't have a workout, we're still going to try to find a way to coach technique on film. If it's stretching, we're going to coach the technique and stretch and the proper way to stretch. Scheme is great, but you win with your fundamentals. And, I kind of hit before on the slide, this position is 100% relationship driven. To me, to be a successful offensive line, you have to be the best conditioned. And that's our mentality. We're going to be the top conditioned team in the country up front next year. Always on the same page is critical. And the big thing with me, it's kind of a thing I've done no matter what position I've coached over the years. We will never walk on the field. That to me sets the tone. When you look at any great O-line in history, whether it's the NFL or college or great high school programs, you watch those guys, when they take the field, the defense notices. They set the tone, they set the pace, they set the violence, and it starts with running on the field. So everything we do, we're going to run on the field. What are our goals every day? We talk about winning the day every day. That's all I care about. I don't talk about winning games, championships, trophies, anything like that. Win the day every day. 100% assignment execution. Big thing that's been taught to me over the years, do not let yourself get beat with pre-snap, post-snap penalties, little things that can take away. And the other thing is don't let yourself get beat with lack of assignment execution. You know your assignment. So if I'm an offensive lineman and I play the game, am I going to be 100% effective every play? No. Guys on defense are coached well too. They're good athletes. I'm going to get beat. But I can know my assignment. I can try to execute my assignment to the highest ability I can every play. 100% hustle and effort. That is not negotiable. We will not walk on the field. Play with feet fire and hand bites. No selfish penalties that kind of hit on before. Protect your quarterback. That's a mindset. It's not it's not just about protections and scheme. Like that is a mindset. Like I'm not gonna let an opponent touch my quarterback. And the other thing is no tackles for loss ever. A 2nd and 10 is an okay situation to be in. A 2nd and 11 cannot happen. A 2nd and 15 cannot happen. We talk about staying on schedule and staying on pace and playing with great tempo up front and great pace and great foot fire and violence. We talk about just staying on track. Get to a 2nd and medium, get to a 3rd and short to medium. Keep the defenses fast. Fast pressures off the field. Their cheetah packages and all of that. And then the other thing we always talk about as an O-line, and this is the most critical to me, is own the 4th quarter. Hey, talking about stance. When we talk about stance, we talk about having a powerful base, knees pushed out, your butt is down. That becomes your 3rd leg. The other thing we talk about is condense. We want to be as powerful as possible. And so when we talk about condense, now you're probably wondering, you're seeing some pictures here of sumo wrestlers. When you look at a sumo wrestler, a few things you notice. Feet are rooted in the ground. Squatted position, short legs. You can see bend in their body. You can see power. Their body's condensed. The body's not super long. It's not all over the place. It's condensed. It's more powerful. It's a bigger mass all condensed together. We talk about having our feet rooted in the ground. Full foot in the ground, all your cleats. And the other thing we talk about is holstered hands, ready to attack. A couple more pictures of it here. A few things you always see. And one thing I want to stress that I always teach now, my guys are always in the 2-point. And something I kind of took from my time at FIU, and I've kind of just grown it over the years from when I played in college. I kind of shifted myself from being a 3-point guy to a 2-point guy. A few things I like about it. It allows you to have your eyes up, you're scanning the safeties, see the full picture of the defense, pre-snap, immediately in the post-snap, your eyes aren't getting up. And the other thing is this, when you talk about being in a 3-point stance and a 2-point stance, and you talk about the moment of contact, when you make contact, you are relatively getting to the same position if you're coaching it right. Where if I'm coming out of my hips in a 3-point stance, I'm coming out of my hips in a 2-point stance, I'm still making contact. at the same pad level. We talk about here, you can see at the butt is the third leg. We're playing with gator legs, which is just a term we use for short legs. Toe to heel relationship, feet are rooted in the ground, hands are always in that holster position ready to attack. They just picture gator legs, big thing with me. I love visuals. I think that guys prefer to see this rather than words. When you look at it, whether we are engaged initially in our stance or we're engaged trying to get into a block, our guys are always playing with short legs. So that's where the term gator legs kind of came about. Coach Stroll, who I mentioned earlier, he's kind of the guy that taught that to me, and he just kind of took it. And I'm a big believer in it. The other thing, when you play in that position, you reduce the opportunity for injuries to happen. When you talk about playing bent and talk about playing with short legs, your body's powerful. You're engaging your big muscles. You're not exposing yourself to having no bend in the legs and getting piles on you. We talked about earlier, why is there a picture of a rock? I show the rock because I want my guys to understand when you talk about that stance and that 2-point stance being short with the short leg, be condensed. A rock is powerful. A tall, skinny tree is not. When you think about the force it takes to snap a tree in half versus the force it would take to snap this rock in half, that's kind of like what I'm talking about. That rock is powerful, it's condensed, all its mass is right in there in that shape right there. Okay, fundamentals. The kind of the myth up there at times, and I was guilty of it. You scream as an O-line coach, get your pad level down, get your pad level down. What do you see? You see so many kids that just bend over at the hips. They bend at the waist. They're getting the eyes underneath, the head's in the block. The butt's up. They're not engaged in powerful muscles. So when I talk about fundamentals, I talk about a few things. One is I talk about where are your feet taking you in front of your block. Are you getting great cover on the defender? And the other thing is your hand placement. So if you look at these photos, one thing you'll notice is there's great hands. When we talk about striking underneath the breast, underneath the pecs, and then the handles. And the handles are underneath the armpits for me. When you have your hands in those positions, you are in control of the defender. One thing, if you look, you can see in all these pictures pretty much that the lineman has somewhat of a bent leg, that they're bent down. The D line might be a little bit lower than them, where their hat's at, but the old lineman has superior leverage in all these pictures. He has superior leverage. Okay, clip I always like to show. Guys, and you guys can laugh at this. I'll kind of talk through some of the little fundamentals of it. You watch sumo wrestling. And this is another one where Coach Strollo, I used to watch his YouTube videos, and I was like, oh my gosh, what sumo wrestling? And I started looking at it. One thing you watch, constant reset of the hands. I'm going to try slow motion. Reset the hands, reset the hands, reset the hands. Short steps, bend legs. You can see it here. He's not getting a lot of air under his feet. Slowly walking this guy back, walking this guy back, walking this guy back, get out of the ring when he wins. That's kind of the mentality that we want to talk about. Playing with the short leg, short steps, having a lot of power, hands constantly resetting and getting that position of leverage, driving your defender outside of the ring. When we talk about force, 3 things I always talk about with the O-line. We talk about pushing defenders, pulling defenders, and then torque. And kind of going into that, the ones that we do the most really with my guys, I like to talk about is, looking back at that picture real quick, we push guys and we torque guys. I'll kind of show a couple of examples. First example is just a base inside zone play to the right. You can see here the right guard, the center, the left tackle. They're all grabbing guys, and all they're doing is pushing them. I'll kind of get into the scheme side of it in a couple minutes. So right now I just want to kind of show you what the guys are doing. We're just pushing guys right now. So looking at it from the side angle, we're generating power through our legs, right? Short steps, we're feet are on the ground, and we're pushing these guys off the ball down the field. And when do you pull? A couple situations. This example, defender spins, pass rush, defender spins, I got my back to him. I'm a savvy player. This left guard here last year, Jordan Budwick, unbelievable player. He was a very 6-year veteran. I think he had more years of college eligibility than everyone in America. He's a guy, you see him use his hands. All he's doing is resetting his hands and snapping the guy down. Clean, old guy trick in football. The right guard here. When we talk about torquing the defender, and tearing the defender, use his momentum against him. All this D lineman's momentum is taking him up the field right now. try to slow it down here. He's launching out. We're taking short steps. We're bent. We're going to redirect his force. Talk about having great hand placement leverage. See right here, it's on that near armpit, near shoulder, and we're just going to torque him around and throw his ass outside. Those are the three types of force that we like to talk about. The fundamentals, as we start to get into the scheme side of it, and I'll start blending the technique. I talk levels. To me, I'm not going to get too much into this. Few different ways we talk about how far off the ball we are in our splits. One is crowd line of scrimmage. When do you use this? You'll crowd line of scrimmage and a quarterback, the 4th and short, goal line. Just trying to get that initial push right now. And then second level we talk about is just, base level that pretty much everyone teaches. Your offensive guard's hand is in the middle of the offensive center. If you're a 2-point like we are where you teach it, you got to be careful. Sometimes the rest will kind of get on you a little bit because when they can't see that hand break the center's hip, they'll really start getting on you to move the guys up. So it's just kind of that fine line. You got to know which referee crew you're dealing with. And split with. To me, I don't want to have super large splits. We'll talk about 1.5 to 2 foot max. Sometimes when we talk scheme and start doing something with the read game, you could wind the splits to the man side and all of that. But we want to keep everything condensed and want to keep it where we're not creating a lot of holes and lanes for the defense. And in the run game, talking run block and fundamentals. Two things I always teach my guys. One is your landmark. Where's your first step? We talk about first step almost being like that position step, where you want to go. Your second step is your power embrace step, making contact. And if it's lateral blocking, I'll show in a bit. My second step might just be being rooted in the ground when I make contact, so I have both feet in the ground. If it's more outside zone, that second step, my first step might be a little wider position step. My second step is making contact right out there near crotch defender. To me, it's all about the punch time with that. Your base, we always talk about having a powerful base, being rooted. Leverage, showed it earlier, that highlights that fundamentals on it. We're talking about the hands under the breast and the hands and the handles and the armpits. Drive the knees through the defender. Once you're engaged and there's no more double team, trying to pass the guy off for help or anything, drive your knees through. Think about like trained pistons, like just going up and down, drive your knees through the defender. And then finish mentality. Every play should be a mentality that I'm going to bury my opponent. Okay. Key phrase here that my former OC at FIU, Coach Krasky, someone had told him this, and he mentioned to me, and it's probably the wisest words anyone ever taught me in coaching. The art of zone is pace. When we talk about our inside zone, now that we're getting into our part of it, when we talk about our inside zone and just our zone scheme in general, we talk about playing with unbelievable pace up front. And a few things that we like to talk about, I'll try and just highlight it here. Are you a covered lineman or uncovered? And you guys can kind of read through some of this stuff right here, and I'm going to talk through it over the next few minutes. And the other thing is, on every zone play, where is the read spot? The read spot for us is the location that our back is attacking in the run game. Our job as offensive linemen is to protect the read spot. We do this by altering our pace in our blocking. Key term here that I've stolen from a few different coaches, from coaches at, Coach Mogridge at FIU and Coach Grosky, Coach Strollo at Lewisburg Junior College. We don't talk about running off the ball at all. We are going to scoot to our blocks. Excuse me. So, a few things with that. We're going to scoot to our blocks front side, brace our feet into the ground to be rooted when we give help. We're going to skip pull to overtake defender's backside. I'm going to get into all that now. But this slide is the art of zone is pace. And right now, I'm going to show some clips coming up in a few minutes. And some of it's going to be a little weird. And some, when I first started coaching this type of scheme, when I was first involved, and I was kind of just looking back and kind of sitting in the back of the room as I was learning and watching the other coaches do it, I said, what the heck are we doing? But it made sense. And I saw the results, and I saw why it was happening and the success we've had. Like I said, I have all my information at the end of this, so I'd love to talk more, at the end of this clinic if anyone has questions about it. A few things we talk about when we talk about pace. One is, what color are you up front as an offensive lineman? We have 3 colors, green, yellow, and red. Pretty simple. Okay, green is go. That means there's a man in my gap right now. We are green when a play is declared, and we have a threat immediately in that gap. That means that I don't have time to give help backside to a gap behind me for another offensive lineman. We are yellow when there is no immediate threat in my play side gap. I'm in a position, however, where I can help a man behind me. So you can see right there, the description is yellow equals slow. No one play side, you can still give help backside. Red is probably the toughest thing to coach. I'm going to show some examples next. Red is stop. That means that on either side of me, to my left, my right, or my right to my left, depending on where my play side gap threat is, there's no immediate threat, no immediate defender. The term you see right there, don't pierce the defense, what that means is I'm not going to run off the ball. I'm not going to sprint to the second. Now, when do you see this? You really see this, and you're going to see the clip in a second. If it's a 3-down Okie team, and you've got 2-4 techniques or 2-5 techniques, both your guards, your interior guards are going to be uncovered. The urge is I'm going to run to that second level and try to block a guy. But by not doing that, you're protecting the men behind you. I'm going to kind of show you some examples of that. Your first clip here, I want you to write, and I'm always trying to pause this. Remember, it's green, but I can almost never get. Oh, perfect. Here we go. So I don't know if you guys can see that the green boxes on these guys, but if you look at this picture right now, it's inside zone to the right. The right tackle, the right guard, both they're on the front side. So the read spot of the play is that front side right A gap. So these guys are both green right now, meaning it's zone to the right. I have an immediate gap threat in front of me. If you look to the left of the center, there's a shade right there. He's tight. He's playing tight. Depending on how you ID this, he's a shade. So for that left guard, I am green right now. There's a man in that play side gap that I've got to go block. Behind him, the left tackle, there's a 4-eye inside of him. A 4-eye is a gap threat. Man is inside of me to the play side. I'm green right now. I'm going to go block him. The center here, he's yellow. But I'm going to talk about the next slide. I want you to notice when you watch this, it's great cover up front. If you look at it, the patience, the right tackle is not flying out of here. The right guard isn't overshooting this. The left guard is doing a really good job of trying to push this to the center. And the left tackle does a great job of zone stepping this and just try to overtake. You'd love to see him stay on the block and finish the block. The whole reason why we teach this mentality, I'm going to talk about it more as we keep going, is we are trying to cover first-level defenders. We will not come off on a second-level defender until he becomes either a first-level threat or his path takes us off. The running back's job, when we talk about read spot, the read spot here is the right A gap. Running back's job is to read the defense. He's to think linebackers to the offensive line / tight end, and then he is going to press this and hit it to where he can hit it. So where this really allows, it puts defenses in a bind because it kind of takes away traditional run fits by linebackers, and it allows us to really cover up first-level defenders. Another look at it right here. You can see it here. Right guard, right tackle are green. Pace by the guard, doesn't overshoot this. The right guard, good pace by the right tackle. Keeping that guy outside. Left tackle overtakes this. Tight end does a good job of shoving in your hip. We just got to finish this now at the left tackle position. And we don't get to that play side linebacker here, 5, but we're blocking all first-level threats. We're eliminating the possibility of a TFL there. Okay, when we talk about yellow, same thing here. Ball is being run to the right. This is a play side. The right A gap is the play side read spot. So if I'm looking at this picture right now, right guard, I know the read spot's behind me in that right A gap to my left. If I'm the right guard, I'm looking right now, I see that immediately in my play side gap, that B gap, there's no immediate threat. But there's a G that's on my shoulder. So therefore I'm yellow. I can give help to the center who has an immediate gap threat. The center here is green. So I'm the right guard. I'm gonna give help, and we talk about that. I'll talk about that technique in a second. Same thing here at the left guard. The left guard, my eyes are in that front side A gap. I'm looking to my right, but I have a 3 technique. I'm going to give help to the left tackle who is green. What does that mean? That means that we're not going to run off the ball. We're going to stay thick. We're going to use a technique that we call rock back. I'm going to show some clips on. This is a clip of it here, but I'm going to show you how we teach it and what it kind of means more. We're going to make sure we build a wall on the defense, on first level defenders. So if you watch it right here, both guards do a really good job here. They take their zone steps. What they do on the snap, I'll try to slow it down. You can see here, they both get that left knee up. We call that declaring the high knee. You know, we're building a wall against the defense. We're staying square. You know, big thing when you watch these guys, we want to stay square across the board throughout our blocking. You know, both the right tackle, the center, and the left tackle are green. The place I get right now. But both guards do a great job. You know, watching it from this angle, I want you to watch their face. I'm going to slow it down a little bit here. Both guards are square. Both guards are square. The left guard comes off when the linebacker makes him come off. Same thing with the right guard. The right guard's very patient. That doesn't really make him come off. When you look at the demeanor of 8 versus 31, we are pulling that wall. We are running on a second level defender. Now, who makes the play? 8. What does he make the play for? Third, probably about 3 yards, maybe 4 yards. That's a positive play. You know, that's not a negative play. We're not behind the chains now. You know, we've achieved our goal up front. We've blocked all the first level defenders. We eventually will get to the second level defenders. The running back does a good job of pressing this read spot and just hitting it downhill. Okay, red. When are you red? I talked about this is a perfect picture of it. You know, you're running zone versus a 3 down front. You know, this is like a cat front. You know, 2-5 techniques, 0 nose, 2 interior backers. The outside linebackers are walked up or out depending on the formation. You know, when you look at it, both guards, the urge is always going to be there. I want to run off the ball right now. I want to sprint to that second level defender. I want to make sure that I stop that guy from making a play. But what really has to be going through my head is, well, if I run off the ball right now and that 5 technique spikes against my right tackle, you better stop that. If I'm that left guard and that inside backer hits front side, hits that front side, you know, behind me, tackle now has to come there, and that DN now has a shorter shoulder to squeeze down on. You know, we don't want that. We want to be slow and make sure that we're helping. You know, help the center, help the tackles. You know, great look at this right here. You know, probably, like I said, probably the hardest technique to coach because guys want to run off the ball, and guys are like, I don't want to wait. You really just want to buzz his feet, be patient. You know, you look at it here, interior linebacker to the field. You know, the Mike backer, he blitzes. The left guard does an unbelievable job slowing down. He sees this. His eyes should be in that front side A gap to make sure that nose doesn't spike. Sees it. Sees that they're doing, you know, that right now, which should be triggering my head too, is levels. You know, you see both interior backers at levels. Right now, my head, I should be thinking pressure. I should be thinking movement. He does a great job just coming out and banging this back. The left tackle should really come off of this. You know, right guard, same thing. His eyes are in that front side B. He's looking to make sure that 5 doesn't spike. He sees that nose slant across the boundary A gap. Comes back and just builds a wall in it. You know, better look at it right here. Obviously, the right tackle does a bad job here. You'd like to see him strike with his hand, you know, try to keep the guy outside. You know, but really good job here by both guards just banging this back. And once again, you know, we're running on second level defenders. You know, we're untouched for about 2 to 3 yards. You know, we're giving our running back steam. We're taking hits off the running back. We're eliminating DFLs. You know, it is a patient demeanor, but it is a violent and physical demeanor. Okay, kind of going back to what we were saying, the art is on his pace. You know, now, you know, the next phase of it. So now we understand what the colors are that we are. You know, what color I got to play with, my green and my yellow and my red. Now I have to understand as an offensive lineman, where am I at on the play? Am I front side? Am I on the read spot? Or am I behind the read spot? So if I'm a front side player, that means I'm in front of where the ball is aiming for. I'm in front of the read spot. That means I'm a wall player. My sole job is to keep out any defender. So kind of thinking back to that last clip, you know, if we, you know, I'm going to kind of buzz back real quick. If you look at the right tackle here, with the right tackle, like if I'm a wall player, it's inside zone on the right, the ball's going that A gap. I'm a wall player. I can't let this guy in. You know, I cannot let this guy in. Like this would be a minus for him. Like, you know, my sole job is to keep this guy out. You know, for the wall player, this means I'm in front of the read spot. My job as the offensive lineman is to keep the defender in front of me and not allow him to cross my face into the read spot. I need to have great cover on him. That's a term that every day we talk about the RO line, about staying square, staying thick, and having cover on guys. Like we want to make sure if we're on the read spot or in front of it, we're having cover on our defenders. I'll talk about that more. If I'm on the read spot, meaning that the ball isn't going in the A gap, I'm that center. I might be that right guard who's yellow. My defender, my pace that I'm playing with, I'm on the read spot. My job is simple. I'm a combat player. I either have to cover the defender up or I have to tear him off of that. Meaning I have to physically remove him from where the ball's aiming from that read spot. Okay. Backside, meaning I'm behind it. So who is this? Generally, this will always be, the guard behind the play, tackle. If it's outside zone, it could be really everyone from the right guard. If it was outside zone, the right guard, all the way to the left tackle. But in true inside zone play, it's going to be that backside guard, backside tackle. I'm an overtake player. That means I'm backside cutoff. That means my sole job is to put myself between any potential defender and the read spot and keep him from getting there. So let's look at a couple clips of this. I'm going to try to freeze this again. See if I can get this. Okay, perfect. Like I don't know if you guys can see the squares or not. But if you look at this clip right here, the right tackle, this is inside zone again to the right A gap. The read spot of the play is that right A gap. The right tackle is a wall player, meaning that if my progression as an O-lineman is this, I line up, I hear the play call, I know it's inside zone to the right A gap, I know immediately right now, hey, wait a minute, I'm green because it's inside zone, but I'm also a wall player. I got to make sure this defender doesn't get inside of me. I can't allow him to go inside. I'm the right guard. I'm yellow, right? No play side gap threat. I have a shade behind me. I'm going to help the center. That guy is on the read spot, meaning that there's a defender on where the ball's going. So myself in the center, the right guard in the center, we are both combat players. We've got to combat that guy. We've got to cover him up or tear him off the read spot. And then backside, the left guard, left tackle, both of them, we are overtake players. We've got to make sure that we put ourselves between that 3 technique and any second level defender that might get on the read spot. One thing with this clip too, you're going to see that the defense moves. This is also a great clip of what happens when color changes post snap. If you look at the right tackle, does a good job. Strikes, he's patient. There's the guy outside. Yes, he falls off late. The defender's not making the play. He's done his job. The right guard goes from being yellow to essentially red. Jake goes backside. He immediately slows down, feels it, feels the help, feels that he needs to give help, bangs it, and then snaps off to the front side backer. The center is a combat player, trying to cover this guy up or tear him off. He does a heck of a job. The left guard is an overtake player. So you can see immediately pre-snap, the left guard thought he was yellow. He sees that nose guard on his A gap. He immediately becomes green right now, goes and attacks that guy right now and shoves it to him times the second level. Really good job by those guys front side. And then really good job by the left tackle. I'm green. I know I'm an overtake player because the read spot is the front side A gap to the right. I've got to put my body between that 3 technique and where the ball's trying to go. Really good job of cutting off the defender here by that tackle. You'd love to see here if the tight end gets that second level defender. Either he can tear him by or he covers him up. I think it'd be a much bigger play. A really good job by both guards, really just adjusting to this. Building walls by the right guard. The right guard does a great job of building a wall right there. It forces the defense into a bad fit. One thing too that we talk about and all the time is Brian O-lineman. I tell my guys all the time, and they it's a big thing that I want to hit home. Feel the help. So if I'm the right guard here, my left hand, I should be able to feel the help, see the threat. So this is a good clip. I really like this clip because the right guard never looks away from his front side B gap to make sure that any threat there. You can feel everything behind you. See the threat front side. So you never should be looking back into a double team. Okay. So when we talk about double teams, we don't do true double teams. We talk about giving help. So if you look at this picture, I love this photo. I did not love that game. That was a tough game for us. But I love this photo. And one thing you look at this photo, you see both guards here. So they're both in this picture, in this clip of that game, they were both yellow. Meaning that they were both giving help to an offensive lineman behind them. One thing you notice is how square both help. You see the high knee declared. You see that knee is up. It's walling off that defender. They're thick. they're low. They're striking that near hip, knee, from the knee essentially up to that rib cage, that soft belly rib cage of the defender. So just kind of talking through the slide a little bit. In our zone blocking schemes, we talk about giving help to each other rather than true double teams. The technique that we love to talk about is rock back, rewind, and ricochet. So kind of hit a lot of this before, but when we were yellow, we were helping another old lineman behind us. At the read spot, we rock back, meaning that's the technique we use that you guys have seen. You know, the 2 steps, come back and bang it. We stay square, root in the ground, and physically bang back against the defender. When we come off this block, this is the next phase, but we ricochet off to the second level, and I'm going to show you guys some of the drills and how we work this. When we are red and there's a defender behind us and no threat in front, we'll rewind. That's a really advanced technique. You know, I'll show you a few clips of our tackles doing it from last year when I was at FIU, and I'll kind of show you how we're drilling it now. So when we give help, you know, same thing, big picture guy, I think that kids look at this more than they look at any type of, you know, words. I always joke with my line coach from college, Coach Haas, you know, I loved his manuals, and it had all these details. I'm a big reading guy. I love reading books. But, you know, a lot of young men now, it's more visual, and so that's kind of like, you know, I'm more of the picture guy now. I think if I gave them some of my older line manuals, they wouldn't know what to do. So, plug in charger here real quick. So one thing when you look at this picture, you know, the thing that I love to emphasize this is you look at the old lineman, the eyes are up, seeing the threat, play side, feeling the help. Feel backside with your hand, see front side with the eyes. Toe to heel relationship, high knee declared, staying square. Okay, so this is our young man doing it at Bryant. Young man has a really bright future ahead of him. Really excited with how hard he's working, how much better he's done. You know, one thing you notice is just working that rock back technique. We're trying to strike it with our near shoulder, near arm bar. You know, we're trying to keep that knee up. One thing you'll notice, this is early on in the offseason, is his eyes. His eyes are closed for most of this. You know, I kind of joke with him about, you want to see the front side. See the front side. Feel when you need to come back and snap this. You know, how else we do it? We do a prowler sled, and we just work kind of 2 steps with it, add defenders into the side. You know, quick step, rock into it, snap off laterally. You know, quick step, snap off laterally. More clips of it. 1, 2, we rock into it. You know, if you have guys that have a lot of waist and movement hand issues here, if you look at that 77 here, the right guard, you know, I have him keep the hands together just while he's doing this so he doesn't waste a lot of movement. You know, quick 1, 2 step, and then snap off and strike. You know, looking at it here, in the clips, both guards are yellow. You know, I want you to watch. There's two things I want you to see here. One, the left guard does an unbelievable job. You can see here, he takes his steps, there's a high knee, bangs it. You can see that through technique head snap back when he hits him with that arm bar. He's the high knee. You know, the other thing is this, the pace at which he comes off is fast. Why? Because that linebacker is fitting downhill fast. We do not come off of our double teams with giving help until a second level defender becomes a first level defender. So like if they stay up there, we will stay on these first level defenders and build the wall. You look at the right guard, bad job. Why? You can see here when I slow it down, he's hopping. He's hopping, he never gets that high knee up, he's catching this block, he becomes mired in this block. You see the center now has to turn, which we hate. We never want to see hips to the sideline. We want to see 5 guys square, butt square, being thick. You know, the running back does a good job here. You know, we have this tight alignment that we did. We kind of shift our backs a lot in all the different alignments that they did. You know, he's coming downhill. He sees it. He sinks it. The linebacker hits it. Hits it backside. Really good read by the running back here. You know, 31 is trying to make him downhill right now. Tight end does a good job of trying to cut it off just a little bit. You might see him finish that. You know, but really good job here by the left guard, left tackle. You know, coming over there and overtaking it. You know, another good clip of giving help here. I want you to watch both guards. I like the clip a lot. We like the right guard, you know, quick step, gets that knee up. He's facing the G. He's trying to rock back right now. Notice that linebacker never makes him come off of it. He stays on that and just keeps covered. You know, that guy cannot split it. That D lineman's being taught by every D line coach to split that double team. You can't do it. We're staying square. We're staying thick on it. It's helping the center. Now, if you ran off the ball, the second level, and you gave a punch, how hard of a block that is for a center to reach a G who's angling in. Think about it versus when we stay square. Great clip of the right tackle. Patient. He's just pounding the feet. We call pounding the post. Right there, the guy outside. Now, when you look at the left guard, love his footwork. On the feet, gets the high knee up. You can see the armbar lifts up 54, delivers it to the tackle, who is the overtake player, right? He's overtaking the 3 technique. We're running inside the pistol, with sweep action coming across. Left guard, you love to see him stay square, but I think it's a heck of a job. He strikes this, 55 hits it downhill, who's a good player. Snaps off right now. So, like I said, the pace at which we snap off of our rock back, of our double teams, of when we get help, is all based upon the speed of the second level defender. Run game footwork, I'll kind of talk through some of this again as we kind of go through what we do to teach this stuff. We talk about scoot steps, play side step in zone run game. Trigger steps, we do that on the Crowler a ton. It allows the weight transfer at the beginning of the block. It's really just picking up the feet, putting it right back down. Bucket, we don't do a whole lot of this. In some of our outside zone schemes and stuff, we will do it. And then trap and skip pull, which we won't really talk about today because today we're just talking about zone. But these are just kind of all the different run game footworks that we work on an average day. Okay. So the one thing that guys ask is, how do I teach playing with great pace? How do I teach guys to play slow? And how do I teach them to strike and rock back and do all these things? And the one thing that I learned, working under Coach Mogridge, Coach Skrosky, was learn to make your upper body independent of the lower body. And what I mean by that is, if you think about your young man who comes out, and I remember my first day of youth football, and heck, even going to high school football, and they tell me to run a 40. I think about how robotic I probably look. I probably still look terrible. My guys make fun of me all the time for running. But you think about how robotic you are. Everything we do, everything I do now, when we talk about dynamic warm-up, and it's kind of tough to see. Now, this is just our guys warming up. They get here. This is pre-practice, before stretch, for anything we do. And they've got tennis balls in their hand. And what I'm trying to train them to do is different body motions and movements while keeping your upper body independent. So very similar if you think about almost like a boxer. He step inside to side, he's dancing around the ring, but his hands are relaxed, his hands are moving, constantly striking. It's kind of like that. I want to be able to move my lower body, be in control of my lower body, but have my upper body independent of that. If I have to turn one way, I should be able to torque my body. Just, we're going through all these different things. Butt kicks, high knees. You can see who's really invested in it. Who's really uncomfortable with it. Some guys are very uncomfortable. It's all of a sudden you got a tennis ball and they don't know what to do. Then we start just doing shuffles, pounding feet on the feet. You see some guys, they start looking down because they're like, what the heck? This stuff it's unbelievable what it does and what it eventually leads to for our guys. It just makes them more comfortable, and we will use the tennis ball in pretty much all of our drills. And, another look at it here down at FIU last season. Obviously, it's a lot sunnier down there than it is up here in the Northeast. You can tell who's comfortable with it, who's not. Some guys, it takes them longer to kind of get developed with this. But it's going to make their bodies have to change. It's going to make them change how they do things. Just kind of look at doing different tools with it, different tools. Some guys are really comfortable with it, some guys aren't. And we kind of take the next phase, simple. This is all teaching how to play with great pace in the run game, in the zone run game. Have the guys move in different ways, just shuffle, keeping the upper body moving, and just working different things. And if you don't have tennis balls, have them move the hands still. Here's the guys with tennis balls, they're rolling. Coach Strollo, a guy like I said who I mentioned a lot. He used to say roll the meatballs. And it's kind of something that you can tell who's comfortable with it and who struggles with it. But it's just a great way to develop it. And then just start adding the zone work with it. Same thing, using the tennis balls. And watching our guys here, all they're doing is just going through every pre-practice we do this. Guys get out here about 15 minutes early. We just start working our zone steps, switching the knees, switching the feet, skip pulling, all the things we do in the zone run game. See right here, our guys are working the skip pull. You can see half these guys are too high, and we need to keep working again. Our lower body sunk down more, right, playing that bent position. We switch a few, go to left stance and right stance. And just working the technique, working our footwork while also working our upper body independence. And one thing you guys probably noticed some of these zone clips, the backside zone, we'll skip one, I'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. Same thing, teaching this in the off season, this is us early in the winter, back to camera, I first got up to Brian. You're working the steps. You can see how uncomfortable these guys were initially with it. Working short steps. This is how we teach playing that short steps in the zone run game, right? We're not running off the ball. We're covering up first level defenders. That's how you teach that footwork. You don't have a tennis ball, grab something. Like, I don't know what these things were we found in the weight room, but we grabbed them and we started using them. One thing when you watch it also exposes who has all the wasted movement. Like if you look at the young man with the hair there, or the young man with the buzz cut, there's a lot of wasted movement, pulling his body to move and all these things. We want to keep working that. We started talking about we talk about circular force, about striking in the game. So we're rooted in the ground here while we're doing this drill, and we're talking about tearing defenders and striking defenders. So our core is rooted. All we're doing is, and we're kind of going way too fast at this. He's getting a little better at it. Here's a little bit better look at it. We're sunk down, we're rooted, so our upper body is independent. We're striking, we're torquing defenders, and we're working it. And this kind of goes hand in hand with, what I said earlier. Start from the ground up. Don't add footwork into anything yet. Start from being in a rooted position. My feet are in the ground. Same thing here. We're just working strikes, slight hips. You like to see, you look at this clip, I like this clip a lot. You can see the hip activation a little bit more from the guy on the right. This guy on the left, he's just eager, he's just striking the hands. And we don't want that. We want to get used to bringing the hips slightly through, but not all the way. We don't want to ever be, one thing when I look at a lot of videos now, we don't ever want to be in a position where we have straight legs and our hips are fully extended in front of us and we're trying to lift the guy. We're playing high. We're not playing with bent legs. We're not powerful. If you look here, when we strike, we still have bent legs, short legs. We're powerful. Better look at it here. One thing too, you got to coach the defender. Like this guy here on defense, he gets the ball down lower. We don't rise too much through. Slight activation of the hips. Slight activation of the hips. We're still running. We're still playing with bent legs while we're driving defender up. And always finish with a tear component. Now we add the footwork to it. Short steps, pound the ground, rooted on contact. We're trying to get both feet in the ground when we make contact. It's not a bad job by him right here. I like to see him, punch time, and he'll keep getting better at it. Looking at it here from the other week, it does get sunny in the Northeast once in a while, as you can tell. I love it. I love going outside in bad weather. But it rained in our spring game. I was delighted. Everyone else, they weren't, but that's just how the line coach is. Striking, playing with bent legs, and tearing. Always tearing. Pace off the ball, not running off the ball. We're not trying to expose lanes for the defense to run by. And then tearing always at the end. Same thing here, short step. He's got to sink down. You can tell he's a little hunched forward here. He wants to drop his anchor a little bit and just keep working to bend. Bend. Flexibility, all that stuff is critical for this. Working our skip pulls now in the off season. We talk about the backside of the zone scheme. Putting a wall between the defender and where the ball's trying to go. Right. We're going to skip when we're going to work skipping, and then get in that fight the flat mentality. Drilling it here again. Through lead, we're banging this left tackle, skipping, trying to get that knee up, trying to get the knee up the wall off the defender. Continuing with how we teach it. Now we talk about progressing to 5-man scheme. 5-man, get all 5 guys up, working our zone scheme. Watching how we teach the short steps in our inside zone. And I want you to watch the left tackle here. He does a good job here. He's got a tennis ball in his hand. He's scooting off the ball. He's powerful. He's rooted. He's making contact. Notice when he's making contact, slight hip extension forward, hands coming through up, keeping the head out of the block. He's leading with the hands, hips underneath him. He's got his power. He's playing with short legs. He can still even get lower on this, right? He still wants to be even more bent with the legs, and then add the tear component late. Now, one thing you'd like to see him do when he tries to tear, he gets too high because he's tired here. Late, you want to tear both of them do, and you can tell that these guys are young still. Like, you want to keep playing that short leg mentality. Look at it from behind. This is, like I said, this is early in spring. We got a lot of work to do. And we got to be quicker with our skip pulls in the backside here. Get that knee up in the ground. We're too narrow in our base when we make contact. I'll show you how we kind of work that in a second. We want to make sure we're pounding the feet when we strike and tear off and tear late always front. Same here. Short scoop steps by the left side. Pound the feet. Both guys, especially 77, get your pad level. Not your pad level. See there, I almost said it as an O-line coach, right? Sink down. Not my pad level. If I say get my pad level down, he's just going to bend at the waist. Get my hips down underneath me, right? Bend down, and be powerful. And then backside, we're skipping, right? We're skipping, trying to get that knee up, replace right now, put ourselves between the defender and where the ball is trying to go. Some guys always ask, why do you use the tennis balls? A, goes hand in hand with what we said about the stretch stuff, but we don't want to ever be in a position where our upper body and lower body are too connected and we can't turn and torque and all these things. And the other thing is the tennis balls is if a guy steps on them, he's not going to sprain his ankle. It's a soft thing. Step on it, it'll just get crushed right underneath you. So that's why we use it. Look at us doing it last year at FIU. Green overtake. We're going to backside. On the off, front side, scoot steps, strike. We're trying to strike underneath it. We're bringing our hips up. Be a little more bent here. But we're in a position of power and always working the tear late. Short steps here by the right tackle. My hands are already in a position of leverage to strike. I'm working short, powerful steps. And these guys did unbelievable. It was awesome last year being a part of that and learning how to push them over again. We finished the season, I think, the 4th or 5th in the nation, PFL's allowed. And it's because, and 3rd in the nation, sacks allowed with 8 sacks. And it's because people ask, why do you have so sacks? The answer is we were never in the 3rd and super long. I think we were like 3rd and 5, like 5 or 4 point something, high 4 point moves. Teams couldn't get their cheetah package. They couldn't get their heavy blitz package on the field against it because we were always on schedule. And that just helps, and we had a great quarterback. The quarterback gets the ball out. That's critical. Every O-line coach knows that. You have great cover up front, and you are playing with good pace, and you're not creating holes or lanes for the defense to run through. You're going to be very successful. I want you to watch here. We talk about patience and steps. Green overtake. We got 5 guys keep going. Left tackle here. Tight hands. Torquing late. Does a great job of carrying this defender. Job here, putting the wall up. On the left side, like seem to be more physical and stay square. Being turned is the enemy here. Watching here, the right guard here, not skip pull, bad footwork. The left tackle right tackle's got to overcompensate because of it. You're never powerful when you do that. The left guard here, you'd like to see him even bang that back more, be more violent with it. A great job by that left tackle. Great clip of it here now. We talk about our zone scheme. I want you to watch both guards, right? Squareness of them. High knee up, striking defender. The left guard here is knocking that free technique back and gap. The left tackle's doing a great job of zone stepping this and overtaking this. But, the one thing that I like about the skip pull versus zone step is his head's down here. He's not getting back to being square and feet crossed. So he's not really powerful here and allows this guy to tear him off, which is a negative. But great job by that guard. Now, the one thing we would say to the guard, maybe he can hang on that a little bit longer. The good thing is, though, he sees the right guard bang the back. He sees color. He goes and takes it. When we talk about the pace of the right tackle, a lot of O-line coaches are going to watch this and scream at him, like, what are you doing? Get to the second level. And that's how I always was. Great pace, great demeanor, making sure that tight end's secured. You can see that left hand's up in case there's any type of spike where he needs to get help backside. And then climb to the second level. Great job by the right guard. Square, right? He's striking with both hands, but he's square. He's physically knocked the shade backside at you. We've now outgapped the defense. And he's not coming off this until that defender makes him have to come off. So now our running back is running on essentially unblocked defender at about 2 to 3 yards. consistent. You'll take that every time. You know, our guys versus their guys. You know, great cover and great finish. Another look at it here. It's inside zone of the right. Patience by the right tackle. Right, I'm in front of the read spot. I'm a wall player. I'm gonna make sure that tight end's got him secure. I'm not gonna let him cross. Stay covered on. Right guard here. Spike defender. I go from being green to yellow. My knee up. Don't run passes. Don't put the center in position of stress. Come back and bang it. That linebacker doesn't make me come off. Like, you think about this. Look at the stress this puts the linebackers in. You know, these guys are patient. There's no holes in defense. If they declare and hit that B gap right now, the guard will immediately snap off. Now we're taking care of it. You know, left tackle, patient. Skips, gets back to being square, climbs to second level, walls his defender off. Nice job. Center does a good job of slowing down here and absorbing this. And the left guard does a good job just being green and kicking the hell out of this guy. And obviously the running back does a heck of a job of thinking the linebacker going. You know, technique, when we talk about, you know, you saw what we did in the Crowler earlier. When we talk about building walls, one thing that we want to always do is we want to declare that high knee. You know, and it's not enough. You saw a couple clips there where the tackle got there, where he zone step or skip, and he gets knocked down in the zone scheme. You know, we will rep this every day. You know, working that fit. Now you take it from that green overtake drill you saw earlier. Now the fit, right, where we have that knee up, our hips are underneath us, so you can see Mike here, he's too high. He got better as the year went on, as spring went on, excuse me. Short steps, your green ground, like, that's better. He's pumping that arm, that's better. Eyes should be in that front side gap. One thing you got to constantly hone to those guys. Feel the help, right? That left hand here by this guard here, he's engaged this guy. He's helping whoever's behind him overtake this new game. But you need to feel the help. His eye should be that right side here to his right A gap. Or B gap, right? Short steps, you know, strain. You know, I would say he doesn't have the need declared high enough here. He needs to get that thing up more. His hips are all the way behind him. You know, strain, better. Get the hips down a little bit. Use that. He should use his right arm to help him. Your right pump the arm, but his eyes are in good shape. And have the guys. This is that defender needs to be leaning on that guy, trying to wash him down. You can see here, 76 is doing a good job of straining, right? Because that's how it is in the game. You wall off a defender, they're going to try to push you back. You know, guys here at FIU doing, you know, straining, restrain, good demeanor, being square. Being square. Try to wash him down. You'd like to see here at 60 Dallas get his eyes up and looking at left gap. Look up here, just get the eyes up. Same thing. Feel the help. See the threat. You know, a couple clips of this in action in our zone team. You know, right here, right tackle does a great job of skip pulling, puts the wall, bangs it back. You know, he's pulling that wall. This guy's trying to get off it, and he can't. Another good clip too. I want you. That's my warning of mine. Hold on 1 second, guys. Here we go. My kitchen, so bear with me. You know, really good clip here. Watch the right guard. You know, spike three. If grab is what we talk about, tearing a guy and torquing a guy. This D lineman's momentum is all running to the side. What do? We grab and tear him and torque it. Unbelievable. Great job. You know, good look here again from the tackle. There's that wall on it right now. Building that wall. He's building that wall. Nice physical. Good job. I want you to watch this clip here. And we call this, rewind, right? The left tackle, right? I'm rewinding back. I see that defender inside the box, right? We got three guys now behind the tackle and behind the kick out the fullback, right? I'm just going to rewind, put a wall up against this. You know, great job by the patience. You know, the left guard here essentially goes from being green to red. Pulls down, sees it, bang, snaps off on this right now, that defender. I want you to watch the right side. You know, the right tackle, not running off the ball to that 5 technique. You know, patience, you know, reading the safeties, kind of seeing what the defense is doing. Great technique is looping out. Right tackle is patient, he grabs and tears this. Now the right guard can climb. Center, patience. Guys spike him and grab and tear him off the read spot. But it all starts, you know, the play ends
with the fact that the left tackle, and he falls here at the end here. This is where we do that drill, and you got to really be firm. He's putting up a wall right now against the defense. We've got 3 guys sealed outside of where the ball is hitting. And a great job by these guys up front. And a hell of a job by the running back running hard here.
Right. So it's not about running off the ball. It's not about the second level defender. It's about cleaning up a picture for our running back. Putting walls up against the defense, creating gaps where there weren't gaps. Other ways that we just keep drilling this. You saw this clip earlier. We're working our steps here. Just quick, bang it back into tight 3. Skipping by the backside tackle to overtake this, getting to the second level. Same here. You have to pull back into it. Skip pulling by the tackle to get square. I love the skip pulling zone, and some guys are like, why are you skipping zone? It allows you to get square, right? I'm not crossing my feet. If you think about bucket steps and zone steps, at some point, I'm not getting around. Like when you watch the skip pull, I'm getting a little bit of vertical distance and lateral. Like I'm skipping behind. We talk about getting in the arc of the guard here. Like, look at this tackle. I'm getting in the arc of the guard, or I'm getting in his near hip, near shoulder. If you look at that picture, it's a little tough to see. That guy cannot come off of this. Like, where is he going to split this double team? Because the tackle is essentially in the hip of the guard. Great job. Another look at it here. A little clear here by the guard, switching the feet. I'm yellow, 1, 2, bang. Nice job here. Skip, back to being square. See the guard just be firmer against it. Good clip here again. Skipping. Get to be a square. I'm in the arc of the guard. Good cover, good squareness. Come off. Want you to watch these clips. I love some of these clips. Skip by the right tackle. Good job getting back to being square. Let's start from left to right. 1. And we're going, this is just inside zone of the left. Screwed steps by the left tackle. Patient. This guy's a loose 5, right? For the tight end there, you could say he's a 6 or 7, however you want to call that, right? Short steps. Patience. And then all that D lineman's momentum is going up the field. I'm going to short step, grab, and tear him. Throw him out. Nice job. Left guard. Patience. Screwed steps. Gets that knee up. Watch him rock the defender. Boom. Lift his pads right up. Stays cover on him, right? Center builds that wall. He feels his threat backside. One thing you notice, the center doesn't turn back. In this type of team, when we talk about being square and being rooted, the one thing you can never do, you can never have rotation. Talk about never having rotation. You never want to turn back against the defense. We want to stay square. We want to stay powerful. We want to stay rooted. Backside here, both the right guard, and the right tackle skip. Being square, the right guard is giving help. Initially, the tackle sees direct come right now. I become green. That's a second level defender now. It became a first level. I'm going to attack him right now. Great cover by these 5 guys up front. That's about a 4 or 5, 6 yard gain maybe. Yeah, I'm being generous because I'm a line coach. Probably about a 4 yard gain where safety's getting added in the box, and really if it's a bigger player, tight end cuts this guy off backside. That's a hard run. It's great cover by guys up front. Same thing. We're hitting this thing about 3, 4 yards. Positive play. Okay, good clip of this again here. Zone scheme up front. Watch your watch. We'll go right tackle, back, right tackle, short steps. I'm a wall player, right? 3 spots in the front side, right A gap. I'm going to be slow. Patience, go out and tear. Right guard's yellow. He bangs his back, physically knocks this guy back a gap, snaps off to that defender. They really like the left guard. I'm yellow. I bang into this. I'm trying to get to 31. 31 overruns it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go and just keep banging the heck out of the nose now who's in my gap. I see color. I'm going to take that instead. The running back does an unbelievable job of sinking this. He is pressing the read spot, sees 31 flow over top, ends it back behind that wall. Heck of a read by the running back. Heck of a job by the fullback carrying this by too as well. We talk about it here. Right tackle, short steps, like a tight 5. I don't know if he's going to spike. I probably shouldn't be thinking he's going to spike. The safety rotation doesn't tell me that. But I never know. I don't like his footwork. He's kind of all over the place, but I like his demeanor in terms of he's not running by this guy. Stay covered. If he stays covered on him, that's a win. Right guard, you like to see the right guard just be more physical, right? I see a shade that's looping out to me. Either grab and tear this off the read spot or physically bang this down and take it vertical.
Great job here. I'm the left guard. I'm red. Yellow on the snap. My mentality should be, because we're in a 2-point stand, I can see that safety coming down right now. I know there's an outside linebacker walked up outside the DN. My mentality should be right now, I'm going to flip a wall against this right now. I'm going to try to see if this ball can hit inside. Guard does a great job. He bangs us back to the tackle. Tackle does a good job here of just stepping into this. He comes, he gets it back, he takes it, great cover, resets the hands, and then you look at the ricochet of the guard. The left guard comes off of it solely because that linebacker's coming downhill right now. Once again, great cover on first level defenders and now second level defenders. When you can do this, when you can play with great patience and pace and cover, you're going to give your running backs chances. Your guys in space against the guy, and the mentality we always have, those guys don't want to make tackles on a bullet. Like there's a reason why linebackers and DBs are not playing D line, man. Take the size part out of it. Like those guys don't train. Like D linemen train to get off blocks and make tackles on the line of scrimmage. Linebackers don't train that much about taking first level blocks and defeating them. And same thing with DB. So whenever you got to train, whenever you can put those guys in one-on-one situations where they got to make an unimposed tackle, to me it's a win-win. Obviously you got some studs out there, the linebacker that it doesn't matter, but that's a win-win to me. Okay. Hope that helped today. Sum it up a little bit. Play with great pace. Know what color you are. Big thing with this, guys, is teach your line. Don't run off the ball. Play with unbelievable pace. First level cover. I'm green, I'm yellow, I'm red. Am I a wall player? Am I in front of the read spot? Am I on the read spot? Now I'm a combat player, or am I behind it? I got to overtake it. And then the other thing is being rooted in the ground. Being condensed. O lineman, like we want to play powerful. If I'm 6'5", doesn't matter if I'm 6'5", 300, and squat 500. If I stand at 6'5", a guy who plays lower, more power is going to be able to push me around. Vice versa, if I'm a 6'5" guy who plays at the level of who I can sink my hips, not bending at the waist, but sink my hips, and I can get down to that 6 foot demeanor. Think about how much more power, mass, and cover I have. And the same goes for short guys. If I've got a 5'10" center who plays, like I'm a 6'2" guy, he's playing high all the time, his hands are up high, versus a guy that's now 5'10", can condense himself to be about 5'8" and play low and get on the pad low, you'll have a lot of success. Guys, my contact information is right here. That's my cell. That's my email. Our doors are always open. I love talking ball. Like I said, it's a huge honor to be here and speaking at this clinic and this summit. And I just love what these guys at Run the Power are doing. And if you ever have any questions, or you want this presentation, or you want some clips, I'd be happy to send it to you. That's my cell, my email. And then, guys, if you're ever in the Northeast, this is our schedule next season. I'd love to have you guys come out. If you're from the Northeast and you've got 2020 guys that want to come to a game, we can give complimentary tickets, 2020 kids, and the high school coaches in the Northeast. So come up. Thank you guys very much, and go Dogs.